Hello and welcome to this new session. Today I have the pleasure to have Himanshu with me. So Himanshu will show us today how we can deploy Unity Catalog in Azure Databricks environment. This video is a follow-up regarding the previous video that has been made with Yassine regarding how to use Terraform Databricks examples. And I leave the stage to Himanshu.
Thanks, Yusuf. Thanks for inviting me for this session. So as Yusuf introduced, I'm going to show you how you can deploy Unity Catalog using Terraform on Azure Databricks. So this is a GitHub repo which contains all the examples. I think you have already seen this in the previous video. So I'll focus on one of the examples in this repo. So this one, ADB Unity Catalog Basic Demo. So basically this one deploys Unity Catalog end-to-end on Azure Databricks. So let's dig into this. So let me guide you through the whole process, what we are going to do in this example, and then I'll also go a bit deeper into the code. So first thing that we need to do is deploy a Metastore. Inside Unity Catalog, Metastore is the, let's say, the high-level container envelope that holds everything. So you can have like one Metastore per cloud region. To deploy a Metastore, you need a storage location where all the metadata about your managed tables will be stored, and you also need a way to connect to that storage location. Like in case of Azure, we are going to use managed identity, which will allow us to access ADLS account, storage account from Unity Catalog service. So basically, to create a Metastore, we need these two things. So basically, we are going to create, first of all, the managed identity. Then we will create a storage account. We will allow the managed identity to read and write into the storage account. Once we have these two objects ready, then we will create a Metastore in one of the cloud regions. Then next step would be, once the Metastore is created, we can obviously see that available in the Databricks account console. Then we, as a next step, we need to attach one of the workspaces to this Metastore. So this is how we enable Unity Catalog into one or many workspaces. So again, this we can do on the account console, but in our example, we are going to do this using Terraform. Once we have done this step, then we are going to move to the step 5, where we are going to sync some of the users and groups from Azure Active Directory to Databricks account using Terraform. So basically, you can do this part either using Scheme, or in this example, we are going to do it fully automatically using Terraform. So to do this part, we obviously have to create the groups, the concerned groups beforehand in the Active Directory. Then only we can obviously run this template to bring them to Databricks account. After bringing those users and groups to the account, then we can also kind of sync those groups and users from account to the workspace using a feature called Identity Federation. Again, we are going to do this using Terraform. So this is more like a setup on the account level. Now we are going to also create some Unity Catalog objects on workspace level. So we want to, let's say in this example, we are going to create a catalog for dev environment. We are going to call this dev catalog. Again, to create a catalog, we also need a storage location that will be used as the managed location for this catalog, where all the managed tables will be stored. So for that, we are going to create an external location inside Unity Catalog. And to create an external location, we obviously need a container or a location somewhere in ADLS. And same way, we need a storage credential, which is obviously going to use service principal or managed identity that will allow us to access this location. So once we have created this external location, then we can create the catalog, which will be using this location as a managed root storage for this catalog. And once we do that part, then we can obviously create schemas or databases. For example, in our case, we are going to create a bronze, silver, and gold schema. And also we are going to give some access rights and permissions to these catalog and schemas to different groups and users that will be available in the workspace. So that's the whole basically end-to-end setup that we are going to deploy using Terraform. All good, Yusuf? Any questions? All clear? Cool. Then let's dig deeper, and we are going to see some of the Terraform template for these objects. So as I showed you earlier, basically you can access this example from here, and then we are going to land up in this page. So let me start with the main.tf file, where we are obviously going to start by, let me zoom in a bit. Yeah. So basically here we are starting, by adding the providers like Azure Resource Manager, Databricks provider. We also are creating some local variables or local variables, which obviously we are getting from different variables. So let me start by the variables. I think this is important. Basically, we need 3 variables to run this example. First one that we need is a Databricks resource ID. So it's basically a resource ID of one of your Databricks workspaces that already exists. And you need that because unless you have one workspace, you can't access the account console anyway. So you need to create one Databricks workspace on Azure, and you can get that resource ID from the Azure portal. I can probably show you. Like I have this workspace which is already available, and in the top right section you have this JSON view which gives you this resource ID. So basically we need to copy this. This gives you the subscription ID, the resource group where you want to deploy your resources. Yeah. We also need the Databricks account ID and the list of Azure Active Directory groups that you want to sync to the Databricks account, right? So in my example, I have already created a couple of groups in my Active Directory. As you can see, there's a group called Account Unity Admin, which is going to be admin of everything inside Unity Catalog, as well as Account Admin. I've also created 3 other groups like Data Analysts, Data Engineers, and Data Scientists. And I also kind of added some users to these groups. For example, in the Data Analyst group, I have a dummy user 1. I have a service principal. If I go back to the admin group, so basically I have added myself as admin of anything inside Unity Catalog, as well as the account, Databricks account. So basically we need these 3 variables to run this template. In this terraform.tf var files, so basically you can add your variable values here if you want before running the template. So I've left some placeholders, but obviously you can put your values before running the template. For the user groups, since I already knew what groups I need to sync, so I've already added those groups right away in this file. Okay, so let me come back to the main.tf file. So I'm just creating some local variables from this by parsing these variables. Then I'm initializing the Azure Resource Manager Terraform provider with the subscription ID that I provided from the variables. And yeah, I'm also getting some more information about my workspace, like workspace URL and all those things that I will be needing in this template. Then I'm also so basically one important point here, I'm initializing data frame provider twice in this example. So first one is being initialized using the workspace. So this is to create objects inside workspace. And the second one that you can see here, it's being initialized as Databricks account. So basically this will be used to create objects on account level, for example, Metastore, right? So, and this you can see that we have given it a different alias like Azure account, and yeah, and we are going to use like Azure CLI to authenticate in this case, right? Anyway, so far we have just initialized the provider and just set some variables, and then I'm executing one module. So let me go into this module, and I'll let you know later why I had to create this module separately. So this module is going to create basically the Metastore, as well as it will sync users and groups from AAD to Databricks account. So let's go into this module. Top part is quite same. We are just initializing some variables, setting the provider and all those things. Once I've done that, basically I'm going to create the first Metastore. As we discussed earlier, to create the Metastore, I need manage identity or access connector. So this is what I'm doing here. Once I've done that, I'm creating a storage account that will be used to store the managed tables for the Metastore. Once I've done that, I'm creating a container inside the storage account. And once all of these things are done, I need to also assign a role to this managed identity that we created here to be able to access this storage account. So basically, we are managed identity permissions to read and write inside this storage account. So the role needed for that is a storage blob data contributor role. Once all of this is done, then we can obviously create our Metastore, Unity Catalog Metastore. As you can see here, we are naming it primary, using the storage account here as the root storage. And once I have done that, I'm gonna attach this manage entity to this Metastore, so that whenever we need to access the storage account through this Metastore, we have that permissions behind the scene working for us. Okay, and after that, once I have created the Metastore, I need to attach this Metastore to the workspace so that that workspace can become Unity Catalog enabled. So this is what I'm doing in this resource. Basically, we have chosen the workspace ID, the Metastore ID, and just attaching the Metastore to the workspace. Okay, and after this point, I will start setting up the users and groups. So I've just declared another provider on the account level. As you can see here, I'm providing the account URL here. Okay, so I had the AAD groups that I wanted to sync as a variable. Okay, so I'm just creating some local variables, local variable from that group, right? And then I'm pulling some more information about those groups from Azure Active Directory. Like we need more attributes to be able to work with those groups. Once I have done that, then I will add those groups to Databricks account, right? As you can see, I'm using the provider here, which is Databricks account, Azure account, right? So this is my provider, which is using Databricks account. So I'm gonna basically loop over these groups, and I'm gonna add all those groups inside Databricks account. After this point, I'm gonna start adding the members. So when I talk about members, I'm talking about users and service principals, right? All the members which are already there inside these Azure groups, right? Okay, so to do that, I'm just creating some local variable, which is just kind of, extracting all the members from these groups. After that, I get some more information about these users because I need that to add them to Databricks account. And then in this variable, I'm just extracting the groups. I'm not extracting the service principal, just the actual, sorry, let me correct that. So in this variable, local variable, I'm just extracting the users, not service principals, because I just need physical users, first of all. And then once I have those users, I'm going to add them to Databricks account using this Databricks user resources. As you can see, I'm looping over all the users and just setting some username and external ID and all those things from this local variable. So this is where I create all the users inside Databricks account. And same thing I'm doing for service principals. So in this example, I'm just extracting all the service principals, and then I kind of create all those service principals inside Databricks account. Okay, so basically so far we have created a Metastore. We have synced different groups from Active Directory to Databricks account, and also we have synced different users and service principals from those groups to Databricks account. Now, lastly, I'm going to give some more privileges to these groups, because as you remember, I had a group called Account Unity Admin. So basically, this group will be the account admin for us. So I need to do that. And how I can do that? Basically, I'm going to, as you can see, what I'm doing is that I'm creating a new local variable, which is extracting all the members from the group whose name is Account Unity Admin, right? So this is a way to kind of filter between the groups and just get the group which is the admin, and then we are just extracting the members from that group and storing that in a, sorry, yes.
Himanshu, I have just something you need to clarify. If you can explain to the viewers what's the difference between like the account admin and Databricks like admin, because sometimes they can have this misunderstanding between those two types of
Okay, sure,
groups.
Sure. Okay, so basically when we are talking about account admin, so these are you can like consider them like super users of Databricks account. They have a lot of privileges, like they can create workspaces, they can create meta stores and all those things. So they have a lot of privileges. But when you talk about just a workspace admin, that user is an admin of a workspace itself. They have privileges around workspace, for example, creating different clusters or making other users admins, but they don't have privileges on accounts. Like they cannot create meta stores, they cannot add other users as account admins, right? So when we talk about account admins, it's like super user on Databricks account. Does that is it clear, Yusuf?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. So basically, in this local variable, my aim is to extract all the members who are in this account Unity admin group, because all those members will become account admin, and later we'll see all these members will also become owners of all the Unity catalog objects that we will create. Okay. Okay, so I've just got this list. I'm just again getting some more information about these users and groups from Azure, and then what I'm doing, as you can see here, that I'm using this Databricks user role resource, which is making all these basically all these users who were part of this account Unity admin group as the account admin, right? So this is where we assign them the permission to become the account Databricks account admin, right? Okay, I think this is all this module is doing. Yusuf, do you have any question, or can we move to the next section?
No, I think you gave so many details. I think people will be thrilled. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So let me just also quickly show you the output, because this is important. Since this module is called in the main Terraform template, so basically we are going to use the outputs of this module inside the main template, because this provides us a lot of different resource IDs that are going to be required, right? For example, I'm creating multiple maps of groups, users, and service principal, which is kind of mapping their external ID to their ID inside Databricks. We need this ID. Like, this is the ID coming from Azure, and this is the ID inside Databricks. And we need this mapping later on to do some assignments. Same way, I'm also returning the ID of managed identity, which gives us permission to access the storage account. I'm returning the ID of Metastore that we deployed, workspace ID, and all those things. And you'll see that these values, these outputs, will be used inside this main template. Okay, so far, basically, we have deployed through this module the Metastore, groups, and users. Now we are gonna basically put the users and service principals that are already have been added to Databricks account to their groups. So basically, we need to kind of add the membership, right? We need to make sure that those users and groups are now part of their groups, because as you saw earlier, that when we created groups and users, we just created them standalone. There was no mention of membership, right? Because the membership is defined in AAD, but on Databricks account, so far we haven't done that. So we need to do that part. To do that, we can use this Databricks group member resource, basically where you need to provide the group ID and the member ID, and then that association happens behind the scene for us, right? So as you can see in this resource, we are going to loop over all the groups, then we are going to loop over all the members inside each group, and then we are going to just use the group ID, member ID, as the input of this resource, and we do this assignment. And this is the reason, this exact resource is the reason that I had to create this module. Why? Let me explain. Because Terraform has a limitation. When you want to use, let's say, an attribute of a resource inside a for loop, the value of that attribute should be known at the planning time, Terraform planning time. For example, the members is the attribute of a group, Azure group. So when we are doing Terraform plan, we know the groups, but we don't know the members. It's not known at the planning time. So that's not a problem if you are not using this inside a for loop. But if you are using inside a for loop, Terraform doesn't allow this. In the previous versions, it used to work. In the newer versions, it doesn't work. So to kind of work around this problem, you have to kind of break your template into two parts. First part is where you actually add your groups and users beforehand. So this part will execute standalone. And once you have done that, then you can run the subsequent part. That's why if I can go back to my repo, as you can see here in the section below, to run this template, you have to run Terraform apply twice. First, you have to run this up to this module, which will just create Metastore, add users and groups to account, and then you can run the rest of the module to kind of work around this problem. Anyways, that's not a problem, to be honest, because if you are running this template using a CI/CD pipeline, then just it's like two commands that you need to run in the CI/CD pipeline, it's going to be totally transparent to your users. So that's not a problem. But yeah, that's still a kind of a limitation. That's why I had to kind of create this separate module and run this template into 2 different parts. Cool. All good, Yusuf? Okay, let's move on then. Awesome. So so far I have created a Metastore. I have added users and groups to the account, and I have also added them. Like I have also kind of taken care of membership of different groups, users and search principals. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use the identity federation feature where I'm gonna sync different groups from account to the workspace, right? To do that, I'm gonna use this resource, and I'm going to kind of loop over all the groups because in my example, I'm adding all the groups to the existing workspace. So I'm going to loop over all the groups, and then the workspace ID, then the principal ID is the object ID of each group. And one thing I'll also like to highlight here is that if my group name is account unity admin, then that group becomes the admin of workspace. Otherwise, all the other groups will be the user of that workspace, right? So this is how you are going to also take care of who becomes admin of your workspace, right? Cool. And after this point, I'm going to create a dev catalog as we discussed earlier. So I'm just obviously creating some prerequisites for that. Sorry, I'm having a hard time pronouncing that word. Anyways, so I need to create these things beforehand. I'm creating the storage container in the same storage account that we have used for Metastore. And yeah, I'm creating a storage credential, which is again using the same managed identity that we have created earlier, because this is the same storage account, so I don't have to create a separate managed identity. But if I wanted, I could have created a separate one. And you can see that in these 2 resources, I'm definitely leveraging the output of the module, because these 2 resources, the master resources like storage account and the managed identity, were created inside the module. And I'm just using those, the IDs of those or the name of those resources inside this main template, right? So basically, I create this storage account or the container inside the storage account, the storage credential, which is just enveloping or encapsulating the managed identity. And after that, I'm going to create this external location, which is just pointing towards this container and using this managed identity as a way to kind of connect to this container, because we need some credentials for that, right? So far we have set up this external location, and now I can create my my catalog, my dev catalog. So I have given it a name. I'm using this storage root URL of this container as the root storage, where all the managed tables of this catalog will be stored. One thing which is also important, that I'm also setting the owner of this object, which is again my account unity admin group, so that I know that all the members of this group by default are owner of this catalog, right? After that, I'm going to give some grants to different user groups. So I want all the user groups to be able to use this catalog. So I'm just giving them, all of them, use catalog grants using this Databricks grants resource. Then I'm going to create some schemas or databases. So I'm creating a bronze schema, silver schema, and gold schema. Okay. For all the schemas, again, I'm making this group as owner of these schemas. And then I'm also giving some grants. Like, for example, I want data engineers to be able to, use the schemas, create tables inside that schema, create functions, execute functions, modify table, read all the tables, because data engineers need that access in my example. I'm talking about bronze layer here. For silver layer, data engineers have same privileges as bronze layer. For data scientists, I'm giving them just use schema and select privileges. I'm not giving any privileges for data analysts for silver layer. And for gold layer, for data engineers, same privileges. For data scientists and data analysts, I want them to use this schema and also be able to select from all the tables from this schema. So that's pretty much it in terms of Terraform example. Yusuf, any questions, comments?
No, all good. I mean, it's like you're doing the summary of Unity catalog and explain each component. So that was super great and
Awesome.
very useful.
Cool. So probably I can quickly show you the real deployment. So we already saw this part. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, like if you want to run this template, just keep in mind a couple of things that you need to like create these groups beforehand in your Active Directory. You can keep the name as is. If you want to change the names of your groups, that's fine. In that case, you would need to change some of the things in templates. For example, every time we are using a group name, for example, here in hard coded, so you will have to kind of change that. But like for the sake of simplicity, you can keep the name as is so that you don't have to make any changes. Okay, and once you have done that, and as we talked about earlier, that you need to have at least one Databricks workspace to be able to access the account console, right? Then you can just run these templates, and then you have run the Terraform templates using the commands that I mentioned earlier as well.
And just like an addition, the workspace should be premium, not a standard.
Yes, absolutely.
Very
For
important.
Unity Catalog, that's a requirement. You should be using a premium workspace. So yeah, once you have created your one workspace, you have created your groups inside Active Directory, then you can just kind of clone this template and run it as is if you want. Obviously, you have to set the variable values, but that's fine. And then you can run these commands one by one or inside a CI/CD pipeline. So after you run these commands, you would see a lot of resources created on Databricks account. Sorry. So let me go to the Databricks account. So you will see, first of all, there will be a Metastore primary. If like in my example, it was in West Europe region, you can obviously choose a different region. And then you can also check out the storage location that you created for this Metastore, where the managed tables will be stored. You can also see the workspace, which is linked to this Metastore. And this is a workspace that you need to have before you run the template. Then we can go into this user management section. So I can see all the groups are properly synced to the account. I can even check that they have all the members inside them. Let's go here. I can see that there's a service principal, there's a user, right? So all the members are properly synced here. And then what we can do, we can also go check the workspace. So I'm in the workspace here. Let me go to the admin settings. I can see that all those groups that were in the account are also present in my workspace, and all the users are also properly synced from account to workspace. All the service principals are also synced from account to workspace. And on top of that, I can explore the data section where I should normally see the catalog and the schema. So here is my dev catalog. As you can see, account Unity admin is the owner of this object. It has all these schemas, right? Let's go into details. So you can see I'm using the container that I created using Terraform inside the storage account as the root storage location for this catalog. And let's go into one of the schemas. Let's go into gold. So I have this gold schema. Obviously, it doesn't have a table because I haven't created one. Let's go into the permissions. So I can see the permissions is that like all these users can, like what all the different groups can do. Let's go into bronze schema and permissions. Okay. So I just wanted to highlight these things. So I think that's all, Yusuf, I wanted to showcase.
Yeah, like how to set up Unity catalog, sync groups, and assign permissions. Yeah, I think that was pretty well detailed. And just keep in mind, guys, that anyone can access this GitHub. I will add the link in the description of the video, and you can also contribute if you want to this repo as well. Anything else to add, Dimanshu?
I think all good, Yusuf.
Okay, so
thanks a lot for inviting me.
Yeah, that was it. Thank you for this this walkthrough or step-by-step getting started step by step in Unity catalog using Terraform. So thank you, and thanks again.